Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And first on our agenda is approving minutes from previous meetings, starting with the work session and non-public meeting on January 27, 2014.
Move that those minutes be accepted as written.
Second.
It's been moved by Bill, seconded by Mike. All those in favor? Aye. Those minutes are approved. Next, we go on to the Select Board meeting and budget public hearing on January 27, 2014.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Dick and seconded by Mike that those minutes be approved. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those minutes are approved. And finally, the minutes from the public hearing to read petition warrant articles on February 6, 2014.
And since I haven't had a chance yet, I'll move to approve those minutes.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Mike and seconded by Bill that those minutes be approved. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Those minutes are approved. Announcements. The Select Board will meet on the following dates. Regular meetings at 6 p.m. on February 24, 2014 and March 10, 2014. Work review sessions prior to the regular meeting will start at 5 p.m. There will be a candidates night at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, February 25, 2014. This is going to be held at the Silver Center on at PSU's campus in the Smith's Recital Hall. And citizens are invited to submit questions in advance for the candidates that night. They can either be submitted by email to townhall@plymouth-nh.org or on paper to a box that we have available at the town hall. And certainly hope that a lot of people will come to that event. Town offices will be closed on February 17, 2014 in observance of President's Day. All of the meetings announced will be held in the town hall unless otherwise posted. Weather observations for the month of January are available in the town hall, and citizens wishing to be listed on the Select Board agenda should notify the town hall before 12 p.m. on the Friday before the scheduled meeting. And moving on with our agenda, it was not listed under correspondence, but we do have a piece of correspondence that came in from the Department of Energy, and I would like to read at least portions of that so that our citizens are aware of it. The letter was addressed to me as Chair of the Select Board. Dear Ms. Scarborough, subject: invitation to consult on the proposed Northern Pass transmission line project. Purpose of this letter is to ensure that the Plymouth Select Board is aware that Northern Pass Transmission, LLC, parentheses, Northern Pass, applied to the U.S. Department of Energy, DOE, for a presidential permit to construct, operate, maintain, and connect an electronic transmission line across the U.S.-Canada border. Pursuant to Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966 and 36 CFR Part 800, which is entitled Protection of Historic Properties, the Department of Energy is initiating the Section 106 consultation process on the proposed Northern Pass project to determine any potential adverse effects on historic properties. The Department of Energy invites you to consult with us as provided for by Section 106 and its implementing regulations. And without going on and reading in detail every word of this letter, but I would like to also add that under Section 106, the Department of Energy must identify and consider the potential effects of its actions on historic properties through a collaborative framework consultation to identify historic properties potentially affected by the proposed project, assess its effects, and seek ways to avoid, minimize, or mitigate any adverse effects to historic properties, in addition to the State Historic Preservation Officer, Indian tribes, and the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation. Section 106, consulting parties may include certain individuals and organizations with a demonstrated interest in the undertaking due to the nature of their legal or economic relation to the undertaking or affected properties, or their concern with the undertaking's effect on historic properties. Department of Energy would like to obtain information from you about historic properties, including those of cultural importance to your community and its members in or near the project area, and also to provide you an opportunity to identify your concerns about such properties, including the identification of potential mitigation measures. Your assistance in the identification and evaluation of historic properties will provide us the opportunity to resolve any adverse effects this undertaking may have on these properties. If available, we would welcome any information on the location and importance of archaeological sites, historic structures, and any other localities of interest to you that are known to occur in or near the proposed project area. So we have had a brief discussion on this and believe that we will be contacting a number of citizens who've already indicated and had an active involvement with Northern Pass, and also to ask our Historical Society and Conservation Commission representatives to get involved in this. So just wanted our citizens to be aware. We also have a public hearing that is scheduled for 6:30 p.m. Since we are not there yet, I would like to go ahead and move on with our meeting to committee reports.
I did not have anything new.
I'm not sure this is exactly a committee report, but it relates to what John is here about, and that's the Time Warner thing.
Mm-hmm.
That, that contract has been under consideration for some time. I think it's been probably 2 years now.
Yep.
I mean, it's been quite a while. And most recently, we had a proposed contract, and we sent it back with some requests for revisions, but that was at least 4 months ago, probably, and we haven't heard back until the day before yet. When did I sent you that email?
Sent it. It's
Like
within-
last Friday, I think,
Yeah.
maybe, or so. And the woman from Time Warner asked us a couple of questions, and I wrote back to her actually just today, coincidentally, John, and asked, I said that we had, I thought, a few citizens at least who were concerned that they weren't able to get local access channels and they had basic cable. I think that was the issue. And so I wrote to her and asked her that question: is it true that these folks can't? And if it is true, what can be done about it? Now, I don't know if you've learned something else tonight, but I expect she'll answer that question. And then I'll...
The technician came to the house, and I was told that he would have a box in his truck. Well, he got there, and I said, have you got the box in your truck? He says, well, we never carry boxes in the truck.
Yeah.
So they don't even know what they're doing in their own office, so, how can you go any further? But she straightened everything out, and it's supposed to be up on, he told me, Channel 3 would now be 20, but it isn't.
All right.
And she's kindly said that it's 121. So evidently they can't add either, so I've been going over my bills to see if they're right. So
All
anyway,
right,
it's
but
still a
maybe,
mix-up.
if there's an answer to that question that might help, I'll tell you, but otherwise it sounds like you may be getting that resolved. And then
My
yeah.
only point is, the original contract said that that channel is to inform us of anything like floods, hurricanes, anything like that. We could watch that and find out what's going on. They don't even provide that to us. So they're not following the contract, the original one. I don't know what's in the new contract because I haven't read it. But that's supposed to be an emergency channel that we should get for our own protection. So to me, they're not living up to their contract.
So I think there are at least 3 people with the same question now, and so I'll try to, find out what she has to say. And then the other thing, is, while we're on that, is, this came up before too, but there is the opportunity to acquire additional television equipment, to buy it, and have it charged through our bills by Time Warner. So in other words, we would buy a $5,000 piece of equipment or whatever it is, and that would be then basically charged to all of the customers in the Plymouth area. And she's asking us if we're interested in that.
Was that the additional cable access to the elementary school and
Well, that's actually,
locations?
that's a
Separate
separate issue. This is, yeah, the limit is $50,000. This is an email from the attorney that was working on this for us. Shelley, who is the person at Time Warner, is asking for a list of the equipment for which the town would use the $50,000 in funds from from Time Warner. Now, I don't think we've had some discussion about that, but I'm not sure we want to buy any. And if we do, I don't think it's $50,000 worth, but I guess that's the limit of what they would provide if we wanted it. But they bill it through to us. It's not something
Right,
they're
it's
gonna
not
pay
something
for.
that-
Well, who pays for it? They bill it through to,
The subscribers.
so all of the subscribers in the town.
They would divvy up that
Right.
$50,000, well, whatever the amount was, 5,000, whatever it is.
But they don't explain over what period of time.
I,
Well, we've asked them that
10
before.
years.
well, my understanding was it was during the term of the contract, which at this point is not finally determined. It's 7, 8, or 10 years. We wanted it short, they wanted it long. They haven't really gotten back to us on that. But I guess the point is, if anybody feels strongly one way or the other about that, that's something that we need to deal with them, whether or not we want to purchase any such equipment, have it billed through to us, basically.
And I mean, I think if there's anything that's essential to the operation of PBTV, Jules should identify it and figure out what the price of it would be, but.
I did ask Jules the other day to give that some thought.
Yeah.
About whether that was anything that she felt, we really needed to have and might be able to purchase this way. Do you want to?
Mr. Wood?
Could that be brought up at the town meeting and get a consensus of the meeting? Just give you some idea if the people were for it or against it?
That's why I had my finger on. I was gonna say we should probably get a sense of the meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to reach out to the public.
Well, the people-
Get a
Okay.
voting forum.
We can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Good idea.
Yep.
That's all I have.
Bill?
The Plymouth School District had a public hearing on their budget on February 3rd, and the highlights from their budget was the professional staff is down 0.5 full-time, equivalents. There's one classroom position eliminated, one STEM position fully funded. The collective bargaining agreement increased the projected amount of the budget by $145,000. There's also a 2% plus step in March of 2012, and that's reflected, I guess, by the 145. There's one retirement stipend that was added. The appropriation is down $273,000. Revenue is down $465,000, and the assessment is up $192,000. And overall, the core budget is $8.193 million. And one of the talking points. One of the issues that was raised and discussed was the need to go forward with a technology tool budget item, and that's going to be Article 4 on the warrant article. And essentially it's to web enable, or at least do Wi-Fi throughout the school, purchase perhaps individual tablets to be determined at a future date for either everybody, all children in the school system, or anyway, the technology director at the school is going to be looking into what exactly will be needed to be purchased for equipment for the Wi-Fi and also for these tablets. That's pretty much for schools.
And once again, the Campus Community Council has not yet met, but we have a meeting scheduled for February 18th at 5:30 p.m., and that's right here at the Town Hall. And that is all we have until our public hearing, unless we have public comment at this time. Yes, Mr. Wood.
When you were going over the town budget page by page, there's a lot of time in there that you're waiting for somebody to discuss something. And it would have been helpful to me if you said what you were looking at that page.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, page 1 pertains to new equipment for the highway department, just a synopsis of what's on that page, very short, so that people would know what's on that page.
And we actually talked about that a little bit during our work session, that for the people viewing it at home, it would be helpful to have a paper copy of the budget. And those paper copies are available at the town hall before the budget hearings, so that would certainly be something that would be one way, because even if we did make an announcement saying, well, now we're voting on the highway budget, you still don't see what the budget items are that are being looked at, or not voting on, but looking at for the budget hearing. So my suggestion would be to pick up a paper copy, and we're going to work on getting the budget at that point possibly on the website in the future, so that people can access it and have it available, so if they're watching the budget hearing from home, they could go through it page by page as we're reviewing it. But, my suggestion other than that would be to come to the budget hearings. We had a handful of people here only for that meeting. If people are interested, please come. So, thank you. All right. At this point, we've got 10 minutes before our public hearing. I'd like to...
Oh, go ahead.
Did you have something else to...
Well, since Neil's not here, and I attended a planning board
Okay.
meeting, which was actually quite interesting, for the fact that there was a Tenny Mountain Highway Corridor study that's being done by the North Country Council.
Yep.
And Jeff Sawaki, I probably murdered his name, but he's the regional planner that took John Krebs' place. John was working hand in hand with Sharon Penny on this study, and he presented basically a study of usage and pre-existing buildings and new buildings along the Tenny Mountain Highway Corridor, which is from, I guess it's Route 3 to the traffic circle.
Mm-hmm.
So it was quite interesting, and now he's going to develop it more and then present it to the planning board as a final document, and then incorporate it in the 5-year plan, or at least the master plan. So
Great.
neat. That's it.
Are they gonna be submitting recommendations on any regulatory changes or
Yes.
zoning changes?
Yep, they're gonna, wrap up, existing, zoning changes or zoning laws and also what would be needed to go forward with further development or how things need to be fixed. Recommendations on usage as well.
Traffic studies.
They've done a traffic
They had
study.
Quite an extensive traffic study in there showing where every accident took place, where every injury took
And,
place.
and they're going to actually, well, the intent is to zero down on, how many axles are actually going across our roads, because, vehicular traffic is one thing, but how many, like larger trucks are actually traversing. So that's gonna be done, in a further study.
I think in that area was pretty interesting on how the accidents have gone significantly down instead of up.
The one exception perhaps is the, Smith Bridge Road,
Right.
which is highly trafficked and risky,
Yeah.
Where most of the dots are.
yeah. And, what was the other thing too? Oh, well.
Did you mean that there are fewer accidents out there than there used to be?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
There should be a graph. there.
Yeah,
Is that because of the lights?
That's part of it.
Yeah. Certainly,
I don't hold the point. So, there's some better opportunities in that area for left-hand turns.
you know what's, he did estimate that the traffic was, something like 15,000 daily, and surprisingly, we went to a stakeholders meeting, regarding the drinking water. And Tenny Mountain Highway is more traffic than 93.
really?
Yeah, those are the numbers that were offered, but, and DOT was there.
Was that 93 being just the stretch of 93 that's,
Yeah,
you know?
that's probably, within this, drinking water.
Right.
The
Huh.
It's pretty crowded out
Okay, I
there
guess it is,
sometimes.
yeah.
It does get crowded, but it seems like much of the traffic is traffic that's going between 93 and,
it's
not-
not
trying to
in
get
this
over to
document, this is like an
118.
overview
Yeah.
of it.
Well, I think once you get up past 23, exit 23,
Mhm.
it cuts back, a lot. Everybody's, takes it right over to the Lakes region.
Right.
Yeah,
So I guess those
20 and
numbers
23.
could run higher on Tenny Mountain Highway itself.
yeah.
Interesting.
A lot of like trucks, lumber trucks, coming through that are really kind of like an issue.
Since we've got a few minutes, you said something about a stakeholders meeting relative to the water?
Right. I was invited to, actually, Sharon invited me to a stakeholders meeting at, Water and Sewer.
Oh, huh.
And this was, I don't know, at least a month and a half ago, maybe a couple months ago. And DOT was there, and essentially it's just like try to determine the extent of the issue with sodium and chloride in the water. It never really exceeded, any kind of actionable levels, but the deal is to try to zero down on the causes. You would think they're apparent, but, DOT was indicating that their salt, contribution is lessening, even though the historic record went back to like 65. And, it was quite apparent when, the highway was put in and
Yeah.
salt was actually thrown on the road that the sodium levels went up. So it was just kind of an overview of the extent of the problem, and
Interesting.
yeah, it was pretty cool.
All right. Well, we still have about 5 minutes before we start our public hearing. Yes, Mr. Wood?
Driving around town, I've almost had a couple of blowouts from potholes. Now, there's one down here that may be on the state road. Just as you go past Plymouth Furniture on the right, there's a bad one there, but I don't know who the person you'd contact for the state to get that fixed. There's another one at the foot of Ward Hill, where the person that controls the traffic there sits in his car. one there's one up by the underage kids at the college. And the big thing, you know, even though there's water in it, you can throw sand in and it'll freeze at night, it's gonna help you. Because a couple of those, you've gotta swerve out of the way, and if there's any traffic coming, you're in serious trouble about hitting head on. And some of them are really bad, and I imagine there's other ones. I'm not really complaining, but I am.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Paul's making a note of these, so
Oh, very good. Thank you.
thank you. We'll have 5 minutes before our meeting, if anyone would like to take a brief break.
Unless John has anything else for us?
No?
No? No?
I'll take this up in a minute.
The clock is ticking.
Oh, I just thought of it. On Broadway. Those banks on Broadway now are getting so hard, you couldn't see a little kid if he was walking down. And they tried to push the stuff up, the snow up, but it just made it worse. And I'm wondering if we can't pick that up where the kids walk down Broadway, from like Damaris's house down. If you go up there and look at it, it's a mess. And the employees have been doing a hell of a job with the snow, but these things just multiply and you can't be everywhere. But that's a problem with kids walking down through there. And they could just push that all on the road, pick it up with a loader and get it out of there. The other thing I've always wondered about is why can't we use a blower and as you're going down the road, blow it onto people's lawns?
Liability, John.
Huh?
Liability.
Yeah, but the town owns from the middle of the road 25 feet.
But we can shoot things 100 feet. Yeah. With that blower. But we can't shoot snow on people's properties, John. Even if it's considered our property. We get everything from sneakers.
You can blow it how far? 100?
Yeah, John, yeah, something gets stuck in that chute, it can go pretty far.
Blow it right over the houses out in the backyard. They shouldn't mind that.
I think Mr. Wood gave you permission to blow it onto his yard.
Oh, you can. You can. I don't know what Danny does. It's still by Danny.
At least to test the range.
Right, they did test it out. See how far those ice chunks will go.
I think the board should recognize the good job that the highway department has done during the snow. But I still think we should have a snow emergency in the middle of town around the common, where there'd be no parking from certain times to other times, so they could pick up the snow there, so there would be more parking for the businesses. We've never had a snow emergency time, have we?
I don't think so.
During the night. Every night.
Well, yeah.
Every night.
Every single night.
Okay,
But we can't do it 24 hours.
right.
You would be hurting the stores just as much as
Right.
the snow being there itself,
So, yeah,
to do it that way. So it's every night.
every night there is a parking ban.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is when you get a big snowstorm during the day, if around the common, there was no parking between, let's say, 8 and 9 or 9 and 10, and the blower went in there and cleaned that up,
And the issue
at least you
there,
got that done.
the issue there is just that, as Paul just pointed out, the harm that would do to the businesses down in town would be more than the help that it would give us in getting the snow cleaned up. So it just has to get done at night.
How come it doesn't get done at night when you come in the morning, it's a lot of stuff to be picked up,
We're trying, John.
okay?
Trying.
But I can tell you that the highway is down in staff and equipment. And I think with this, the conditions that they've been working under, I think they're doing an incredible job.
I said that twice.
But you keep adding to the list of things you want them to do. I think they're at their max.
That's what you pay taxes for, right?
Yep.
How much time we got now?
No
I
more.
think we are ready to start our public hearing now, so at this time, I would like to announce a public hearing to hear public comment on the progress of the GCEDC Narrative 1 Community Development Block Grant Project. So,
Ready to be up there?
you can be at the podium, that would probably be best.
Okay, I'm Pat Garvin from North Country Council, your grant administrator for this loan, for this project. This CDBG project provided $120,000 to the Grafton County Economic Development Council for interior fit-up of the Enterprise Center at Plymouth. Narrative One software would lease one office suite in the building and expand their workforce from 6 employees to 13 employees. At least 5 of those 7 new hires would be from low to moderate income families prior to their employment. The fit-up's been completed. Narrative One has moved into their new office space. They've hired 2 full-time employees and 3 part-time employees who we believe will become full-time when they graduate in May. And their hiring of low and moderate income people is consistent with their commitment. And although Narrative One hopes to have completed their hiring commitment by the current end of the contract, which is June 30th of this year, as your CDBG administrator, I would like to ask the selectmen to actually approve a request to extend the town's contract and in conjunction with extending the employment commitment agreement for 1 year, just in case the hiring isn't completed, the full 7 people aren't hired by June 30th. CDFA requires a minimum of 3 months' notice in order to extend a contract, so we're getting started in more than enough time to have them bring this to Governor and Council, because it is your contract with the CDFA has to be approved by Governor and Council. So this time extension needs to be started earlier. It may turn out that we can pull it in May because they've completed it, but we don't want to get caught with not enough time to extend the contract. The town won't incur any other additional expenses. North Country Council would continue to administer this. It's just a matter of, as soon as they've completed their hiring of 7 new people, we can close it out. So I'm happy to answer any questions. If the public has any questions, Mark Scrano's here from GCEDC if you have any questions.
Is that hiring process, is that sort of a ongoing process? And is the issue they haven't found the right people, or they're just trying to sort of make things fit the way?
No, actually, it really is that they haven't found the right people. They've actually, if you just count individuals hired, they've hired more than enough, but some of them, for whatever reason, I'm not party to, didn't really work out. And I think that they're really improving who they've got now. And my sense is, for example, these 3 students that they have, this is their chance to sort of vet them on a part-time basis, and that if they work out and they want to be hired full-time. So this is what they're telling me, that they actually really hope to have, as soon as these 3 are hired full-time, which they can't do until they graduate, and they are interviewing for the other position, that they will have met their commitment. So I don't have any concerns that they won't meet it. It's sort of a little timing issue, and it's a little too close for comfort.
Right.
So that's why I wanted the time extension.
And if they complete the process and it's May, then the extension just gets revoked.
Right. Or it may not have even gone to Governor and Council yet, and it can just get pulled. But at least get all the paperwork done and see where they stand in May.
And Madam Chair, we actually have a representative from Narrative One here, a great Plymouth, New Hampshire company. Would you like to say anything?
Sure.
Please.
Good evening. By introduction, my name is Tim Corbett. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Narrative One, recently hired. We are, as was mentioned, actively hiring. We have job opens job openings, about 4 of them right now that we're trying to fill. We are giving a little bit of preference to the students, and what happens is we've got a couple of open job offers, but as typical students are, they're contemplating between working here and working at other places closer to home and whatnot. So we'd like to make sure that they have the advantage to accept that later in the year, closer to their graduation date. And then if they do accept, we'll be in great shape. If they don't, then we will have some additional backup people. But as was mentioned, it might not be quite by the June deadline. We certainly expect before the end of the summer. So.
Great, all the more reason to do the time extension. And I have to say, Paul and Merrill has been absolutely terrific.
Great.
This has been one of the easiest companies in terms of paperwork documentation, because you know CDBG is all about paperwork documentation. They've been excellent, so.
Good. Any,
I move the contract is extended if you want.
It's like a Ray Burton thing, right? Yeah, you gotta second it too, or?
I'll second it. I'll second it.
all right. Do I have a motion from a board member to extend the contract for a year?
Sounds like you wanted to do it.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Bill, seconded by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll just need your signature down there.
Okay.
Can I ask a question of narrative one? How are you finding the space? Is it working out well for you?
Perfect. We have visitors in
Ultimately,
very
yeah,
frequently.
I haven't been on it,
Impressed,
so I really want to see
the
it though.
location, and
Yeah.
it's working out great. It actually helps us attract people.
Good.
Which is good.
Excellent. Mr. Wood?
Is parking becoming a problem?
No, presently, it is not. We have parking that has been built for us down by the ice rink, and so we've got plenty of space, and it's a nice little walk up over the river. Sure.
You could take advantage of the shuttle too, right?
Sure. Yeah. I can use the walk.
Very good. Any other questions for anyone here for this public hearing? All right. There being none, I would say thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
And
Madam Chair, if perhaps sometime in the near future, we can take a few minutes out of a future meeting and bring Michael Tendowski, the director, in, provide a larger view of the Enterprise Center and what's going on there.
that would be fine.
Yeah. And also as maybe a tour as well for us.
Absolutely.
I know I missed the grand opening,
Anytime,
but that would be good.
Make space and time.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that concludes our public hearing. And since we have already gone through our agenda to include public comment, we come to the request for a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Been moved by Mike, seconded by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This meeting is adjourned.